What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about 10 must-draft players on Yahoo Fantasy Football. Did a very similar video yesterday for ESPN, and I mentioned how in a few weeks, I'll do a more comprehensive, overall draft strategy for a few different fantasy platforms. But today, just looking at some of the best values, while also touching on some of the overall positional trends, when's the best time to draft quarterbacks, tight ends, running backs, wide receivers, all of that stuff, where are the value pockets. If you guys enjoyed the video, smash the like button, hit subscribe. Any comments, questions, feel free to drop them down below. But let's dive right into my first must-draft player here, and it is going to be Malik Nabers. He's going off the board as the wide receiver 7, as an early round 2 pick, current ADP of 14.6. And this is just a spot where if you can get someone with the talent of Malik Nabers coming off the season that he had in the second round, I just think you have to capitalize on it. This truly was an all-time great rookie season. He had the 6th highest points per game for a rookie wide receiver. It was better than Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, all the stud recent guys who have had those monster rookie seasons. And the thing that kind of separates him even from those three is he did it with objectively awful quarterback play. He did it with Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito. Look at those other dudes. Jamar Chase had Joe Burrow. Justin Jefferson had Kirk Cousins. Puka had Stafford. Nabers had no one, and he was still able to have this all-time great, wide receiver rookie season. He led the NFL in targets per game and target share. He was second in target rate. He was top 5 in air yard share and deep targets. And now the quarterback room is still kind of gross, but I'd still say it's an upgrade from last year where now you have Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and Jackson Dart. And I don't think Jameis is going to get a ton of run here, but if Jameis somehow ends up being the starter, Malik Nabers is going to be in wide receiver 1 overall contention. And so I just think the talent of Malik Nabers, the fact that they force-fed him last year, he'll clearly be able to command targets. This type of talent should not be going in the second round. And on Yahoo, you have guys like Derrick Henry, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Ashton Genty going ahead of Malik Nabers. I'd be taking Malik Nabers over all 3 of those guys. Then we're going to talk about another player going in the second round, this time at running back, and it is Achane. Now, typically on some of the more casual sites, ESPN, Yahoo, you're going to see running backs really get pushed up, especially in the first few rounds, and I do think we see that on Yahoo. It's just not Achane, where he's going off the board as the running back 9, ADP of 17.4. So you do have a Derrick Henry pushed up who's going as a mid to late first round pick, very high compared to, a ton of other platforms. You have Jonathan Taylor pushed up going early round 2. You have Josh Jacobs also pushed up early to mid round 2 range. And I just feel Achane is straight up better than those 3 for fantasy. And I think he can reach a ceiling that those others just aren't going to be able to touch. In the 11 games that Tua started last season, Achane averaged 22.6 points per game. That would have been the running back 1 on the season, ahead of Saquon Barkley, ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs, ahead of Bijan Robinson. And so if Tua can stay healthy, and I understand that's a big if, the ceiling is obviously there. And, I know the health of Tua is a big concern. I'm not going to pretend like it doesn't exist, but I do think it's potentially a little bit overblown where it's not like he's just been missing half the season for the last few years. He's had 4 seasons as the starter. He's played in 79% of his potential games. And in 2023, he logged a full season, played in all 17 games. So obviously there's the concussion risk. He gets hit wrong one time and all of a sudden the season could be a wash. What I think is really special about Achane and his overall upside is that he's kind of had multiple outlier seasons in his first 2 years, where as a rookie, it was this crazy efficiency where he was averaging 7.8 yards per carry. And now no one expected him to replicate that number. That would just be insane. But you still thought he's probably throughout his career going to be a pretty efficient running back. In year 2, the efficiency actually falls off. The offense kind of struggles. The O-line isn't great. And then he, leaps up and is this super impressive pass catcher where he leads all running backs in receptions and receiving yards. So multiple seasons, multiple different ways for him to kind of get that production going. I like him here. I think he has realistic RB1 overall upside, and I just don't think you can say the same with a Derrick Henry, a Jonathan Taylor, a Josh Jacobs. Those guys might end up being fine picks at that price, but when I'm drafting an early round running back, I want that ceiling, and I think Achane has it. Now we're going to talk about, I think, the only tight end here in this video. It is Trey McBride. He's going off the board as the tight end 2, as an early round 3 pick. And this is something I talked about in the ESPN draft video. after you get past the first like 2, 3 tight ends, the value at tight end just completely craters, and like almost every pick becomes gross until you're getting into like the back end tight end ones or like the depth options, like the late round darts. And I think it's very similar here on Yahoo, where Brock Bowers, solid pick at his ADP. I really like this Trey McBride price tag. I think Kittle's fine, but then you're looking at like 4-5 turn Sam Laporta, 5-6 turn TJ Hawkinson, round 6 Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce, which is just gross, round 8 David Njoku, and I just don't really want to pay up on those prices. So if I can just lock down an elite tight end in early round 3 with Trey McBride, I'd feel great about it. He was the tight end 2 in points per game last year, 15.6 PPR points per game, was number 1 in target share and air yard share, 2nd in targets, red zone targets, receptions, receiving yards, and he was still the tight end 2 in points per game despite being 13th in touchdowns, only scoring 4 of them. So he has that elite tight end upside. You also factor in the idea that he's one of the only like somewhat reasonably priced or even like, bargain options at the position here on Yahoo. I think it makes him an even more valuable selection here in the early 3rd. Then we're going to go to the wide receiver position with Tyreek Hill being drafted as the wide receiver 15 at like a 3-4 turn pick. And now there's obvious concern here with Tyreek Hill. He's a 31-year-old wide receiver, someone who relies on his athleticism, coming off a very, very disappointing season. And so it's possible that like this is the start of decline for Tyreek Hill and he's going to come in and have another underwhelming season, because if he replicates what he did last year, that's going to be a disappointment here at wide receiver 15. But we also, can kind of make some excuses for him here, where he suffered a wrist injury in late August of last season, played through it throughout the entire season, obviously didn't play super well, seemed to be bothering him. Tua also missed some time, like I mentioned earlier. And this is a guy who's only 1 season removed from averaging 23.5 PPR points per game. And so I think you just have to ask like the what if he actually hasn't fallen off and it was just the wrist injury, the injuries around him last year, this offense as a whole kind of cratering, and you could be drafting someone who's in contention to be the wide receiver 1 overall at the 3-4 turn. And just when you're looking at the wide receiver position, after you're getting past like the Drake London, A.J. Brown, Ladd McConkey, T. Higgins bucket, then you're looking at like the JSNs, Terry McLaurin, Mike Evans, Garrett Wilson, guys like that. Like I'm just so easily taking Tyreek Hill over all of those dudes. And it's just that ceiling that I keep talking about. Like JSN has a good year. All right, he's like a fringe wide receiver 1. Terry has another really good year, hits in the touchdown department. He's a high-end wide receiver 2. If Tyreek Hill hits that ceiling outcome, he's challenging to be a top 3 wide receiver in points per game. And I just don't know if any of those other dudes are even going to flirt with that at like their true peak potential. So Tyreek Hill, I think he's a really solid pick. Then the next player we have here is going to be Kenneth Walker, going in round 4, the running back 18. It's like a later round 4 pick. I have him in my personal rankings as my running back 14. And so like maybe where he's actually going in like round 4 isn't insane, but when you have all these running backs pushed up, when you can get a solid value, especially if you don't get one in the first few rounds, I think this could be a really nice pick for you at the running back position in the 4th round. And I had kind of felt like Kenneth Walker was a little bit overhyped the past couple of seasons. I think at this point, I've kind of flipped, and now I think he's become underrated, and I'm probably going to have a lot of shares of him this year. My initial issues with Kenneth Walker, specifically for fantasy, was just his lack of upside due to the fact that he was not going to be a high-volume pass catcher. He did not catch passes in college. He was not involved as a pass catcher in year 1 or year 2. They also added Zach Charbonnet after his rookie season, like spent legit draft capital on him. So overall, I just felt like he's not going to be a dominant workhorse. If he's only like this early down grinder, you're just banking on a ton of efficiency touchdowns, and I'm not seeing like that true RB1 upside. But then you look at 2024, and in a season where he kind of struggled from the efficiency perspective, he gets way more involved as a pass catcher, and it really elevates his fantasy production. So he went from 2.5 and 2.3 targets a game in his first 2 seasons, all the way up to 4.8 targets a game in 2024, and was the running back 12 in points per game, despite rushing for only 3.8 yards per carry. I think he fits in really well with the new offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak's outside zone rushing scheme. I think that fits him a lot more than it fits Zach Charbonnet. And Kubiak's already talked about how he wants to continue to use these running backs as pass catchers. That's a great sign for Kenneth Walker. Now, there still is some concerns here with the offensive line, but I do think the efficiency is going to be better than last year. Last year also just overall was like a really high scoring running back season. So he could replicate his point per game number and potentially be like the running back 9, 10 in points per game. And he was the running back 12 in a year where things kind of fell apart towards the end. And now you're able to draft him as the running back 18. I just think that is a really, really nice value here. Then we're going to have another running back going a few picks later. We have Omarion Hampton, running back 20. Now, I've already talked about him in a bunch of different videos, so I'm not trying to like go super in depth here. Talked about him, I think, in like my league winning running backs, also the ESPN video. But you have a round 1 running back prospect who landed in a great situation here with the Chargers, has a 3-down workhorse skill set, and for some reason he's going like the 4-5 turn area. And I could potentially understand the concern with Najee Harris, right? Someone who had commanded a lot of volume, was also a round 1 pick. Now, admittedly, I was just lower on Najee Harris. I'm like, round 1 prospect versus guy they signed on a 1-year deal. I'm obviously going to lean towards Omarion Hampton, kind of beating Najee out. But the biggest concern, Najee Harris isn't practicing with that eye injury. And for like a young rookie running back, the more reps he's getting with the ones, the easier it's going to be for him to just start off the season, already sprinting and not have to go through the process of like being in a split and then starting to pull away, like the Bucky Irving cycle of last year, right? Where he just like has to gradually get more and more touches. He might just step on the field week 1 as the clear-cut running back 1. And so I think him being drafted in round 5 is just insane. I have him like mid-round 3 in my rankings. And I honestly feel like there's a better argument for him to go in round 2 than even to fall into round 4. And here you're potentially getting him in the early 5th round. Then we're going to have another rookie running back, another player I talked about in my ESPN video. We have TreVeyon Henderson, running back 28, ADP of 79.3. And I'm just not really understanding these rookie running back prices where it's not like they're just pushing all of them down. Like RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson, like getting some decent respect here from Yahoo. You have RJ Harvey like the 5-6 turn. You have Caleb Johnson going round 6. And then you have TreVeyon Henderson going, like a round and a half after Harvey, a round after Caleb Johnson. To me, I just don't really get it. I think Henderson was the second best prospect of the 4. The NFL clearly agreed with that, with Henderson going, early round 2, Caleb Johnson falling to round 3. It was a surprise that RJ Harvey went in round 2. So I feel like at worst, Henderson is the second best prospect out of those 4. I think his situation is fine. I don't think it's any worse than like Caleb Johnson with the Steelers. Like, yeah, he has competition with Ramondre, with Antonio Gibson, but he is the guy this new coaching regime brought in. He's someone who has the skill set where he doesn't need 70, 75% opportunity share. You can give him 55, 60. He's going to get involved as a pass catcher. He's going to have that big play upside. That is how he is going to produce through receiving and efficiency and on those big plays. And so RB28, this is just a really easy time to hit the draft button on TreVeyon Henderson. The next player I have here is going to be Xavier Worthy, going off the board as the wide receiver 28 around pick 72. And I actually felt like this ADP was too low even before we got the news that Rashee Rice is likely going to get hit with a suspension for the 2025 season. Now, Worthy did have kind of an underwhelming rookie season, but he did put it together towards the end of the year. Last 3 games of the regular season, averaged 21 PPR points per game, commanding over 10 targets a game. Then you get to the playoffs. He has 3 solid performances, 5 for 45, 6 for 85 and a touchdown, and then 8 for 157 and 2 touchdowns. In those last 6 games, last 3 of the regular season, 3 playoff games, averaged 21.6 PPR points per game. I think there's real room for this offense to improve down the field. Mahomes has been like a really rough passer down the field over the last couple of seasons, but I do think you can potentially project a bounce back because it's not like he's just been awful down the field his entire career. The previous 2 seasons, that would be 20 and 21, or no, 21 and 22, he was super productive down the field, like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Last 2 years, he has been one of the worst. Worthy, obviously, if you get those big plays going, that's really going to help his fantasy value. And then I think a potential Rashee Rice suspension is massive for Xavier Worthy because I'm someone who was very in on Rashee Rice, but he's like the rare example of a wide receiver where it was way more situation than talent-based, where he had this really niche role in this offense where he was going to be working underneath, have a really low ADOT, get peppered with targets, get a lot of these manufactured looks. And in that Chiefs offense, it proved to be very, very valuable. As an overall talent, I'm not overly high on Rashee Rice. Like, I don't think he's some sort of like amazing, star level wide receiver, especially compared to some of the guys I was ranking him around. He just was in an awesome situation. But if Rashee Rice is missing time with the team, not playing in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games, that opens up the opportunity for a young guy like Xavier Worthy to come in, pick up where he left off last year and earn more opportunities and, potentially lessen the role that Rashee Rice is going to have. And so I think the upside's here for Xavier Worthy. He could truly be the wide receiver one here for the Chiefs. It's also in the range of outcomes that like this Chiefs offense just really, really bounces back after a couple down seasons and, jumps up to once again being like a top 5 offense in the league. And Xavier Worthy could end up being a fantasy league winner for you. Then the final wide receiver we have here, Tetairoa McMillan, another guy who I've talked about in a bunch of different videos, but still underrated in my opinion, being drafted as the wide receiver 31. And you just look at these round 1 wide receivers, especially the guys going in the top 10, they have a ton of upside. The floor is fine, especially when you're able to draft them as like mid to back end wide receiver 3s. And in general, like rookies are some of the best bets in fantasy, especially to be like league winners, have these super high ceilings, outperform their ADP, especially on platforms like Yahoo and ESPN, who I think are still a little bit behind the curve when it comes to, ranking and just the overall like player base, not drafting these guys super highly. So Tet's a very good prospect. He's going to a situation as the clear wide receiver 1. Bryce Young made a lot of strides last year. I think he's going to have a really solid rookie season, and being able to draft him as like a mid-tier wide receiver 3, I think is a really nice price tag. And then I did want to talk about one quarterback in this video. So this will be the final player. I'm going to talk about Kyler Murray. He's going off the board as the quarterback 11 as like a late round 8 pick, like 8-9 turn. Now ADP wise, I don't think this is some sort of like amazing screaming value, but I do think it's a really good value relative to the other quarterbacks where you have Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield going in round 5. You have Bo Nix going in round 6. I really like Justin Fields, and maybe his value dips after the toe injury, but Justin Fields in round 8, Jared Goff in round 8. Then you have Kyler Murray here, like 8-9 turn, quarterback 11. He's been a top 12 quarterback in points per game in every single season. He has logged multiple top 4 point per game seasons. I'd say he's probably like the 5th best rushing quarterback behind Lamar, Allen, Hurts, and Fields. Maybe you throw Richardson in there if he could actually stay healthy, but he really hasn't been able to. So I think he has some slept on upside. You're pretty much drafting him like at his floor here as the quarterback 11. And I mean, even the last couple of seasons, including 2023, which was his first year back from a torn ACL, he's just straight up outproduced Patrick Mahomes. And Mahomes is going like 3-4 rounds earlier. Obviously, Mahomes has had some better years previously, but like consistent production. He's also had some of those previous years where he's been quarterback 3, quarterback 4 in points per game. So Kyler at the quarterback position, a fun value. But that is going to wrap it up for my 10 must draft players on Yahoo. If you guys enjoyed the video, do me a huge favor, hit that like button and subscribe. Also check out the ESPN one if you guys are playing on that platform. But thank you all for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one.